Well, I won't act like I was raised in a home that was not a two-parent household. Although I was physically abused, I won't say that I was raised too negatively. I had the opportunity to be a nerd and learn a lot about life generally. So I was raised with my mom and my stepdad. Like I told y'all last episode that I was named after another guy. So that would be my stepdad. Being named after him kind of, I would say at the start didn't really change much. I kind of wondered if he would love me deeper or if he would care about me as a son. I kind of wondered if he would show up for me or if he would teach me new things. And after a while, those questions turned into resentments. I started to hate the fact that I didn't have a dad or did have a guy around that wasn't a dad. And it kind of turned me into a more vicious creature. I kind of hated people. Started to dislike men because of the aversion me and my dad had. And then when you add on top of the kind of connection me and my mom had, she was trying to raise me to be a man. And that was really hard for her. So the biggest thing she took away from any other man to teach me to be a man was abuse. So she was very physical with me, very aggressive with me. Didn't really be as nurturing as a mother would, or in my thought process should, and that kind of impacted me greatly. From adolescence to adulthood, I kind of didn't really like women that much. And I won't say like I was attracted to men or nothing. I was never gay, but I just didn't like people. So women, men, I just didn't like them because of how I was raised and the things I've learned. And that kind of made me more appreciative of people like my Aunt Cicely and my Aunt Jamie. That was my other family. They kind of raised me in a way that was more loving, more nurturing, more empathetic. Yeah, they spoiled me in a lot of different ways, so I won't say that was something I neglected or ignored. Being spoiled in a way was kind of a privilege, and I didn't take that for granted, but at the end of the day, it was still the fact that they was nurturing and loving. At a point in time, I thought they were my mothers because of how nurturing they were towards me and with me. Like, my mom really was raising a man, and growing up, she made sure that I knew that I was being raised as a man and nothing less than. So it kind of impacted me in ways that I won't say is negative or positive, but at that age, it really dawned and hindered me in a way that I didn't see my mom in the best lights. I didn't like my mom. I felt like she didn't like me either, so the feeling was mutual, if anything. And that kind of started our relationship on that negative and impactful time zone. We kind of butted heads a lot growing up, whether it was hatred or frustration or open discussions that turned into heated discussions. We literally was bumping heads about everything. It didn't matter what it was. And I didn't like that, but that was just the reality of things. Me and my mom didn't see eye to eye much. We weren't best friends. We weren't close. We was mother and son, and she was raising the son to be a man without any idea of what a man should, could, or would look like. So that impacted me a lot more than most people would think, because my mama not a man. No matter what she do, there's nothing she can tell me about a man compared to being a man. She can only tell me about the man she's experienced, which is pretty much how I was raised, So that's why I'm thankful for not only just other family, but even my mom as well, because she still gave that effort. It's not like she was like, oh, I'm a single mother, so I'm going to just give up because my son will never be the man he should be without a father. No, she still tried. So I commend her for that. I think the biggest impact in our connection was the divorce. Having a man around made it easier to maybe teach me about manhood. But after her and my stepdad got a divorce, she no longer had that easy access to a man. She had to then teach me what a man is, or should be in what she knew, and she didn't know too much. Again, she's a woman. You wouldn't expect her to know too much. And that also impacted me greatly because she was very abusive. It's no dig at my mom or, downfall towards my mom. She just was very abusive. She put her hands on me in all kinds of ways to instill not only fear, but discipline. And at that age, it kind of impacted me traumatically more than passionately. It taught me more about how I don't want to raise my kids and how I don't want to handle people versus how I actually do like handling people. So I think that was a big weight in growing up. Being abused, I kind of hated everything about everybody. I didn't care about nothing no more. Once I didn't have that nurturing love from my mom, had issues with, women growing up, I kind of just said fuck people because at the end of the day, I didn't have the love I felt I deserved or needed growing up. So it was just fuck everybody. And I can't say that was the best mindset, but it started to develop young because you have a stepdad who's not a dad, who doesn't show himself up as a dad or show love correctly as a dad. That's the start of impact. And then you got a mom who's abusive, trying to raise you to be a man, but she's not a man. So there goes the finish. And at that point, I just started to trickle into hatred, frustration, pain, agony, anger. All of those things, negative emotions started to wind up and become me. I wasn't happy about it, but that's where I was. So when I actually found out that my stepdad wasn't my dad and I had a real dad named James, that kind of threw me off. I was about 11 or 12, and that just threw me for a loop because who is this guy? And what is he going to do for me? At this point, I'm 12 years old. I didn't have a dad growing up till 12. So what kind of dad is he going to be after I'm 12? Those was the kind of questions I had because, yeah, I still longed to have a dad, but I had accepted the fact that a dad requires a lot of effort that you can't put on people. You can't require the next person to be a dad. He has to require that of himself. And I learned that early. They didn't require that of themselves. And that started a trickling effect of back and forth. I went back and forth from Georgia with my stepdad for about a few months, to a year, to moving in with my real dad for about a few months to a year, to moving back with my mom. At that age, 12, 13, 14, I did a lot of back and forth, like 3 months to 6 months with my stepdad, 3 months to 6 months with my real dad, 3 months to 6 months with my mom. And then you hear different stories in different spaces, like how my stepdad wasn't my dad and his family knew all along, and my mama is this, that, and the next. Then you go to my real dad and how he tried to tell my mom to do the right thing and how she didn't listen. And if she would have just kept it real, it wouldn't have been as much traumatic confusion, all of those things. To then go back to mom and she say stuff like, she just didn't know and she didn't make the right decisions, but it kind of impacted me. So she hope I can forgive her. Like it was just a bunch of back and forth. Like I was in and out of different schools growing up. I probably went to 7 elementary schools, 6 elementary schools. I was all over the place, And for 8th grade, being with my stepdad, although I knew I had a real dad, because by that age, I'm 13, 14. So I knew I had my real dad now, but I still stayed with my stepdad. So having that whole switch in life to actually still be confused, it just made me hate everybody. I hated everybody and everything. Like, my real dad wasn't dad enough. Like, you didn't want to take me nowhere. You didn't show up. You didn't play ball. You ain't show me love. You didn't get to know me at 13. You wanted to teach me how to be a man. And I was a boy longing for a relationship with the father, And so that impacted me greatly. Come my sophomore year, I may be doing well in school, but emotionally I was struggling. Mentally I was struggling. I was in and out of therapy, longing and asking for help, getting the proper, help to grow. But I still struggled. I literally hated everything about myself. I didn't love me. I didn't love my mom. I didn't love my dad. I didn't love my family. I was longing to actually move to Japan after I graduated. So I only needed 2 more years. And lo and behold, after I finished my sophomore year, they moved me to Georgia. So moving to Georgia, I kind of got a whole new outlook on high school, had to make new friends, and still grow with my dad, grow with my mom, my actual mom and dad. And that just wasn't it for me. I'm not going to lie, at that age, I hated everything about them. Because if you was a dad, why didn't you show up when I was 2? Why didn't you show up when I was 5? Why didn't you show up when I was 7? Why didn't you show up at all? You know, those was my questions I had for him. And he had answers. I won't take that from him or act like he didn't give me anything at all. But it still didn't change the fact that it hurt. I had to grow up with a man that showed me no love, you know. And he told me he was my dad. To then find a new dad, and he had to actually show me less love because he was raising a boy into being a man. Like, all that was confusing. I hated everything about growing up, like literally everything about growing up. I hated God. I hated myself. I hated my friends. I hated my family. I didn't have friends. I hated everything. I was literally the Grinch in a fucking black man's body. I hated everything. And so college changed that. I went to college for the first time at Texas A&M. Everything changed for me. And I won't say I didn't hate anymore, but I was alone. So when you alone, hating and frustrating and angry at the world, that shit eat at you. And that's all it did for me. It started to eat at my spirit, eat at my energy. I was just so angry or so frustrated and trying to prove to the world that I was happier than I actually was, and I wasn't. I was unhappy. You know, so I started to change my life, working with God, changing the from an atheist to a believer in spirituality, accepting God for all the wisdom and love that he gave to me and the strength that he put into my spirit. That took a lot. But I started to make those changes and accept those realities for me. Because even though I went through a lot, it don't make that all that I am. I was 18, thinking that's all my life was going to be, is a stepdad that hated me and a real dad that didn't want nothing to do with me. That wasn't my life. That's just how things started. And instead, I took that and made something better. You know, all of these sections in my life are just visuals that made me as great as I am. I'm a lover. I'm a hard lover because of how much I hated. I'm a strong man because of how weak I was. You know, I'm very emotional and very vulnerable, but because of how, I would say the word is, how much I care less. I wanted to be very nonchalant about all the things that hurt me, and I stopped being such. It's life. This is my life, and no matter what happened before, I can do everything in my power moving forward to be the best version. So I'm going to continue to do that.